everybody. Welcome to The Raid, the Gamer Access MMO MOBA PC gaming podcast. I am your host, level 90 human warrior Bronson Fiore, joined by
your level 50 Elysian paladin, Anthony Ta.
All right. So, how you been, Anthony? You Final Fantasy, that's a game. It's an
That's
MMO.
A game. I'm still playing it. I still think it's awesome, even though it's really hard to argue why. Yeah, I'm still playing it. A lot. Every day. And it's like, oh my goodness, they introduced, like, patch 2.1 came out, and it's like, hey, guess what? You now have another reason why you have to dedicate an hour of your life every day to playing this game. Dailies! Yes, it exists everywhere else, but whenever they introduce dailies, you just feel obligated to do it, because you sure want your cool, awesome lizard mount.
Dear Lord, just never again. So, like, I've actually been playing WoW a lot recently because you got me hooked back into it. Through not because you're playing it, but you did it through proxy. I wasn't real. I was thinking, oh, Bronson's a Blizzard. I just wasn't expecting that book to send you back into the hole again. And you know what? It sent me back hard because, normally when working for TGA, there's stuff coming out, right? So, like, oh, I got to be on top of this. We're doing 60-minute access of this, so I got to answer Anthony's questions about it. Like, that's typically how it is. But there's nothing coming out right now. So I've actually been gearing my warrior and, like talking with guilds and applying for guilds. And I'm just like, wow, no, this is bad. So yeah, that's been that. Not much. So, but I'm back. So, like I said, I am back into WoW.
I'm still in Final Fantasy XIV and
So I actually finally started the legendary quest line up in, which, for those of you who aren't familiar with Pandaria or just don't know of this somehow, it's the Black Dragon Flight. It has a legendary quest line for every class now, where you go and you have to go through multiple quests to earn this legendary cape. Which, okay, cool. And you're probably like, all right, a legendary cape, that sounds pretty rad. But, like, what you have to... Now, you were supposed to do this over the course of the expansion, like any sane person would do. So it shouldn't have been that hard. But I'm doing it all at once, basically. So, as you can imagine, this is driving me nuts, basically. Right now, I have to hit Revered Rep with Wrathion, the Deathwing Sun, by just killing members of the Horde from patch 5.1. And so when I'm queuing for LFR, I'm basically running around the beaches killing members of the Horde. Just hundreds and hundreds of members of the Horde. Yeah, that's it. That's the only way you can earn rep, is the patch 5, like this kind of rep, is the patch 5.1 stuff. So it's just horde, murder as much horde as you can.
So, going on manslaughter mode.
Basically. Yeah. Hell yes, whoa. But yeah, so there's been that, and I've been raiding, LFR raiding, not hardcore, but, just regular raiding. Regular LFR and flex mode raiding, so it's pretty easy. But it's been fun. Like, I've actually kind of had the thought, like, oh, maybe I should, my current guild is looking for a tank, and, I mean, yeah. But then I remember, like, yo, dude, shit's coming out. Lots of stuff is coming out. So yeah, I've been kind of doing that. One thing I will say, I did tank the Terrace of Endless Spring recently, and the Terrace of Endless Spring has this boss where he stacks frost. Like, it's a frost debuff. You take at first it's like, I want to say it's 25%, and you're supposed to taunt off after 3 or 4 stacks. I just told the other guy, don't taunt off. I want to see how long I can do this, because it's LFR, right? And and I got up to a 400% debuff. And had I used my cooldowns correctly, I probably could have got to 500. So, yeah. That kind of made me be like, oh, this is what this game is. Oh, yes, Warcraft, I missed you. So that was cool. My mage hit cap, and I've been gearing my mage. Quinn put this pretty perfectly when he said, yeah, mages are this game's easy mode. I'm not as geared as people doing Siege of Orgrimmar. I'm barely in Throne of Thunder gear, which was 5.2. We're on 5.4. And I also technically do not use the most 100% correct spec. And I am almost always in the top 3 or 4 in a raid. I'm always in the top 2 in a heroic. Because their rotation is pretty much make sure your dot is on everything. Okay, is your dot on everything? Cast Frostbolt until something procs. Repeat. And then in AoE you have the I forgot the name of the spell, but it's this ball that fires out Frostbolts, and then you have your Blizzard spell. So basically, when it's time to AoE, I don't even see what's on the screen. I just see numbers. So,
okay, well, that's quite a lot. As for what I've been doing in FF14, it's been, it's mostly just kind of like a checklist of things that I do daily, really. Wake up in the morning, log on, what's the first thing I do? Well, I'm leveling a healer at the same time, because in Final Fantasy XIV, you can switch classes instead of having to force yourself to start a new character and rerunning through the entire story again.
Well, yeah, but you have dual spec, so I mean...
Like, you can be every single class in the game on the same character if you wanted to. Which would take an eternity, but, that's for those who have lots of time.
I'm not sure how I feel about that. At first I think, oh, that's really cool. But then I'm like, yeah, but I kind of like alts. Like, I like creating stories for alts. And, making, like... Antonidas, the Mighty Mage, and, Undying Sarge.
Yes, if you wanted to be on the few role-playing servers that they have on Warcraft, that's totally okay. The problem is that in most cases it's kind of a bit of a hassle, because you don't share resources. It's kind of a little annoying. But for me, it's a bit easier, because I actually kind of don't really care about alts at all. And I'm not really in the need to relive the story a second time. So it's just so much more convenient.
You don't want to relive the magic?
Well, the story's okay, but it's pretty standard, so it's not like... You don't need to relive the magic. I mean, the only benefit you're getting out of it is being able to level up faster. Maybe. But...
So that's actually... Well, now that you bring that up, that's actually one... So... I've actually just started a Paladin, and that's actually one thing that I kind of forgot about WoW that I really have enjoyed over the years is the fact that there are so many zones for so many groups of levels that every time you level a character, it can be a different experience, which I really enjoy. Which makes making an alt less of a boring bullshit hassle like it is in DC Universe.
Yeah, like in Final Fantasy
or was in DC Universe. Sorry.
Yeah, so actually, to be honest, when you signed up for a new class, I mean, since you're on the same character, you have the same amount of money, you access the same resources, so instead of having to mail yourself stuff all the time and having to rebuy stuff, you are on this game character. The problem is that you get a new class, which is great, but before patch 2.1, the fastest way to level a alternate class is to go out and do fates all day long. And what fates are is that it's kind of like world bosses in WoW, except they're like little scenarios that happen, and if you finish fate that pop up around the map in various regions, and when you finish them, you get a bit of money and some XP. Problem is that after about level 20, it takes forever to level up. Hence why you probably would want to create an alt. However, since patch 2.1, they have made it a lot easier. For example, I once had like a level 45 Dragoon. Man, I want to level up my Dragoon, but I don't want to fate around the frickin' snowlands for like 6 hours to go up 3 levels. So what they did was they introduced these things called roulettes, which is basically, hey, you queue into a roulette, which is basically it throws you into a random dungeon that fits your level, that's at your level or lower, and if you finish it, we'll give you a good bonus. So you would level up half your EXP bar each time you did a daily roulette. So that made leveling classes a lot easier.
One thing I want to bring up about the fate system that you've told me that sounds kind of cool, but it also kind of reminded me of something that I've been toying with in Warcraft, and that is the Timeless Isle. Now, the Timeless Isle, it basically, as you and I have called it, Ketchup Island.
Yeah.
But I've been playing with it, and one thing that was kind of interesting is they don't have world bosses, they do, but they have these like miniature world bosses that only require 4 or 5 people. I mean, up to everyone in the island can go do them, but realistically they only need 4 or 5 people. And I loved it. Reminded me of what you told me about the fate system of someone would be like, oh, so-and-so's up, and then just everyone would go and rape it.
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, the problem, though, is that ever since... the problem with the fate system is that, in Final Fantasy XIV, is that after a while you really notice there's some flaws with it. Because when the game first came out, during the beta days, and when during the first months when the game came out, everyone was using fates as, ooh, look, I'm questing through here, but look, there's a random instance over there. Quick, let's go over there and just get some quick money, quick company seals, and some quick EXP. And I believe that's what their original intention was. The problem is that after a while, people stop questing through their zones because the majority of the players have already caught up to their level cap and don't need to go through those areas unless they're leveling alternate classes. And if you are leveling alternate classes, you only go to a specific map because that's the fastest way to level with fates. So you would have entire maps with fates that just are completely dead because no one's doing it. And it's even worse with patch 2.1, because now that you can level your classes quite easily and quite well through the duty roulette and doing, dungeons, that there is absolutely no point whatsoever in doing fates unless it is something really easy to finish. So fates are now not very useful, and they're really empty, so they're kind of pointless now. That does kind of remind me of the Timeless Isle in some ways, because as much as I love that content, like, once people got a good chunk of gear from it, no one really, touched it afterwards. Yeah, it makes it difficult too, because fates are generally designed around having at least like 5 to 15 people, depending on how big it is. And if you're by yourself, you can't finish it. So, and because no one else is out there to help you, because everyone's concentrated in only one of 3 spots in the entire game, why do it? There's no point. I mean, the only thing left I could think of why you would do is to get your company seals, to, trade it in for, nifty little items at whatever grand company you're signed up for.
Yeah.
So Fates were really cool until everyone hits the end game, then it gets abandoned. And, Fates were really cool because it kind of felt like every time a Fate popped up, everyone's just attracted to it, or at least in the early days. And if you start a new game, and if you create a new character today, you just missed out one of the coolest things about the very early days of FF14.
So, I mean, this is, you do realize this is how my stories of, back in Vanilla WoW, or back in Burning Crusade, or back in blank happened. Like, this is how it happens. Is just, the thing about MMOs and their constant evolution is, unless you're there from the very start, there's just always going to be some cool moment that you miss if you ever take a break, which at some point you will.
I'm sure that
I love World of fucking Warcraft. I mean, on this character I'm playing on right now, I have 76 days logged on it. But I have taken very long extended breaks from it.
It's just, I'm sure that the Fates will get used again whenever the next expansion comes out, and they raise the level cap to raise it to 60. Once the next expansion, I'm pretty sure everyone will get back into doing Fates, because let's be honest, it's some quick XP, quick money, quick company seals, and hey, it only takes like 3 minutes of your day, so everyone's attracted to it. But I'm pretty sure that will happen, but that will only happen in the new zones, so.
Yeah, unless they make a new race or reason to re-roll. I remember when Burning Crusade came out, and when Cataclysm came out, fucking Worgans everywhere.
Yeah, like
Worgans.
Freaking in Warcraft, a lot of the lower level zones, anything that's not a level cap zone, I should say, is just completely deserted after about a month. Because of cross-realm zoning, they have been better about that recently. But yeah, I will agree. Although they have been better about it, except mining. I hate it when they cross-realm the freaking ores, so people were jacking my ores, so I couldn't level up my blacksmith, and it was very painful.
This is why I chose. So I don't have any crafting professions on any of my characters except for my mage, and he's a tailor. So basically, the way I get materials for him is I go murder things, all the things.
The Fates. That's something you will definitely miss from the old days, is everyone just crowding around Fates, and also like having maybe 50 people trying to storm down a dragon and causing things to be broken.
Oh yeah, no, that shit is cool.
That game was not really designed to have 50 people storm a Fate, because you could tell the sound through the sound that they didn't have enough sound channels. And if you're a PS3 player, if there are enough people in the area, some would disappear because the PS3 apparently doesn't have enough memory or processing power to display everybody. So
what, you're telling me cell processing can't do this? What?
Well, it's probably because cell processing doesn't have any memory. 256 megabytes of it.
Once again, I really hope that the PS4 version of that game has a trial or a beta, because I tried the beta, but I really didn't do much in it. And my policy with new MMOs is I wait till they go free to play, because most of them will.
It's like, it's either free to play or you're in the beta long enough to get a good impression of it. Like, for example, I actually wouldn't care one bit about Final Fantasy XIV, but then I played the beta for, like, up to level 15, which is where the beta ended, I think. And it was like, oh my goodness, I really, really click with this. And then I proceed to go buy it and really like it. Like, so, like, an MMO is like, you can't get a good impression of the MMO unless you spend, like, 10 hours in the beta.
Yeah, and, like, I've really enjoyed DC Universe Online. Like, I thought that was a really cool WoW clone, In fact, if you have a PS4, you obviously have nothing to play except Tomb Raider, which came out today. So so you obviously but if you don't give a shit about Tomb Raider, or you don't want to pay $60 for a game you played last year, just prettier, then you need stuff to play. DC Universe Online, it's a good option. That is a good game.
Yeah, well,
I made a pimp superhero with the powers of Superman. I couldn't name him this, but I call him Super Pimp.
yeah.
Man. You can tell what my favorite game of last year was.
You say that, and it's like, man, they probably should have included an auto-tune voice.
That would have made DC Universe Online the best MMO of all time.
But they didn't. So, yeah.
No, they did not.
So, back to like what I've been doing these days. It's just kind of checklist. First off, it's like just do a guild heist, whatever they call it. It's like a quickie run in which you accomplish a simple task for a tiny little bit of money. It's like training bits. And after that, it's off to do dailies. Nothing new there. It's the same as in Warcraft. You go out there, do a bunch of quests, get your wrap up done, go home.
Tired of fucking dailies, and I don't mean just dailies in like WoW. I mean in games though. One thing I have done recently is I've been doing the scenarios I missed out on, and holy shit, I missed out on like 20 scenarios. So I've been going back and doing those, and there's this really awesome one that I want to talk about, and it's called A Little Patience. And it's the Horde and Garrosh have held up in the Temple of the Red Crane after it's been freed from the Shah. And Tyrande Whisperwind wants to just rush in and take out the Horde. And Varian's like, yeah, no, we're not doing that on a holy site. We're going to draw them out. And what you do is you defend the Nomergon and the Night Elf bases while setting up a bunch of traps. And then you lure the fucking Horde out. And it's like, he calls out the general's name of the Horde. I forgot his name. It's just like, only a few champions stand between you and the King of Stormwind. And he calls them cowards. And
see, that exactly is the kind of bait Garrosh would totally jump in on.
and just hundreds and I was impressed at this. Just, oh shit, I accidentally aggroed a boss. But anyway, just hundreds and fucking hundreds of orcs just pour out of the sky, out of the temple. And I'm like, oh my god, how are we supposed to fight all these, dear Jesus? And then you remember the traps that you laid. And it's just hundreds of orcs just getting cut in half, exploding, fucking just all this horrible violence happening. And you're just like, oh wow, that was pretty cool. It was this really cool moment of, one, Varian looks like a complete and total boss. Two, the Horde looks fucking retarded. And three, it was cool. It was one of those moments where it's like, especially because the setup beforehand is really boring. You and two other people are just running between bases, killing the occasional boss, and setting up traps. So, to have that really big payoff, it was really neat.
Yeah, it kind of seems to make a lot of sense that just you provoke them and they'll just come after you. I mean, that's just Garrosh. He's just naturally like that. Which is kind of easy to, abuse, get him killed.
Speaking of Garrosh and Varian, have you got to see the ending to Mists of Pandaria yet?
Nope.
You should watch that cinematic, because Varian comes off as a badass. Like they really did that alliance pride moment that they promised at BlizzCon 2 years ago. Yeah, you got the payoff. It was kind of like, very. I can do the exact quote. Basically, the Horde is setting up their new war chief now that Garrosh is in jail. And Jaina's like, we must strike now, we must kill them. And Varian walks over with his sword with a bunch of guardsmen behind him. And he's like, I want to speak to the new war chief. And, it's Vol'jin. And it's just like, and he says, the Horde committed all these atrocities, etc., etc. But there were some of you who stood up against Garrosh's tyranny. So I do not want any more bloodshed today. But if your Horde if you fail to uphold honor as Garrosh did, we will strike you down. And then him and the Alliance just pimp away.
The pretty standard, we give you a really dangerous threat, then walk off like badasses scene.
Yeah, but hey, he did a good job with it. Like, that was... the thing is with Varian, I would buy it. They really did a good job of making Varian a cool character in this expansion. Which I'm glad they did, because... Like, I kind of liked Varian, but he's never been the guy that, like, I was sold on, I guess you would say.
One-dimensional... Actually, two-dimensional. Yeah. Very two-dimensional.
Yeah, like... But in this expansion, they kind of showed how he was this wise leader that actually,
Really? Because my impression is the guy is still a one-dimensional or two-dimensional jerk.
Oh.
Who is, very unlikable.
Well, you should play the patch 5.1 stuff. That is what I would say to you. Because it's very good. One, it's very good.
Honestly, it's like I'm not really into that much of Warcraft lore, but it's like all Varian ever thinks about is get rid of the Horde, and all the Horde ever thinks of is get rid of the Alliance. So it's just like, okay, guys, wonderful. You got a Cold War going on. Wonderful, great.
The thing is, though, like Varian wasn't like that in this expansion. Like they partially because of his son.
They finally gave him character.
Yeah, like, they did a good job with that. The problem with making story in a game like this, especially when you have a universe like Warcraft, which is really deep, as you know, because you played Warcraft 3 and you've read the books, is they can only address so many storylines, and they have to do it in a fashion that works for an MMO. So, yeah, that's kind of, that causes issues. Which, hey, not a valid excuse, but still, like, I really liked what they did with Varian in this expansion. I'm glad they, I think Mists of Pandaria I think it's better than Cataclysm. I think it is, I would say that it is on par with Burning Crusade, or I'd say it's on par with Vanilla, slightly worse than Burning Crusade, and I would say that it is below, and I would say it's definitely below Wrath. I still say Wrath was kind of the high point, but
yeah, I don't know. Like, for me, the only ones I ever went through was Cataclysm and Mists of Pandaria. The problem is that I didn't play Mists of Pandaria very much because life happened, and I just don't click with Warcraft very much. After Cataclysm, it's like, okay, I think I played enough Warcraft for a long time.
Cataclysm, so my thing with Cataclysm is, like, the launch was really good. Like, that leveling content...
I'm sure the launch is very good. And the level 1 to... What was it? 1 to 60? 1 to 50?
Yeah, those early heroics where where natural selection got rid of all the retards. Like, it was great. It was awesome.
Yeah, but for me, at the time, it was the 1 to 60... It was 1 to 60, right?
Yeah, it was 1 to 60 that got
the 1 to 60 stuff was awesome because, they redid the old world so it's less painful and quicker. So for me, it was like, oh, this is nice. This is Warcraft is really it's likable. And then I spent a lot of time in the end game, which suspiciously feels a lot like the end game of Final Fantasy. Only in Cataclysm it was debatably easier after they nerfed it.
like, I'm not sure how I feel about the nerf, and I say that because in some ways I like it, and if that would have been there at the start of the expansion, a lot of our guild probably would have still been together. But on the other hand, I like challenging content, so I like the
like with Cataclysm. What was it? Like, I wasn't exactly the most intense guy in Warcraft. Like, I only play like a month at a time. I play for a month, stop, then play for another month, then stop again, and even then, I was already hitting just about everything in the end game except the 25-man raids and 10-man raids. Actually, it was just like I was already kind of finishing the LFR just okay.
Yeah, LFR, though, it's like, as I have realized in Mists of Pandaria, LFR is a joke. I mean, it is really just for, like, do you want to experience the story and these big fights? Yes, okay, here you go. Which is fine. I think that should be there because, you know, people like me want to experience that story. But then again, there are the hardcore raiders, and I really like what they're doing with Warlords, where it's okay. There is LFR, there is Flex regular, and then there is Mythic. Like, that's the, you know, and it is all just like there's no Wrath of the Lich King where it was, okay, you have 10-man and 25-man and 10-man heroic and 25-man heroic. And then there's no Cataclysm, which is just fucking, there's, like, I remember getting into heroics and Cataclysm and, like, going through boss fights that were basically, like, it was all, like, going through certain heroics and Cataclysm, it was even harder than vanilla WoW at points, because it was, or Burning Crusade, because it was just like, okay, you need to line of sight these guys in this exact way, you need to do all this stuff in this exact way, and if you don't, you will die. But the thing is, you kind of alienate your player base from Wrath, because if you played during Wrath was... Heroics were hard when you first got into them, you know, largely because you weren't geared, you were in greens and blues, but they weren't like Cataclysm. Cataclysm, if you and your group did not communicate, did not talk, and did not know what you were doing, you were not going to finish Heroics. Like, just period. It wasn't going to happen. When you know, so that, like, alienated a lot of Wrath fans. And then the lore in Cataclysm had the potential to be really cool, but they most it up.
That was, to me, that was just annoying. It's like, Cataclysm felt really generic. As far as, it's like, okay, we're going to be traditional. But it was, like, plain to the point where it's like, there was nothing really too cool about it. I mean, it was like a giant black dragon came out of the ocean, and I was like, oh, cool. The crazy black dragon has a lot of history. Maybe that's something cool to explore, right? But instead, what it's like, the crazy black dragon came out of the ocean, he's ruining everything, go kill him, and then he dies. Okay, sure. That doesn't seem any more interesting than what you did in Skyrim. If I'm honest.
Not only that,
just go out and kill the big black dragon. Oh, and his and whatever fire lord that was like sitting out there in Hydo burning up everything.
Honestly, like, the Ragnaros stuff was almost more interesting than the Deathwing stuff.
And which is funny because Deathwing is supposed to be, I don't know what caused the damn cataclysm.
So I was a hardcore raider from vanilla all the way up until Cataclysm. Cataclysm came, I skipped the first raid tier, and then I started raiding again during Firelands. Firelands was an awesome patch. Not enough bosses. There are only 7 of them. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. Difficulty was good. It was like that. It was well made. But that said, and Ragnaros and the Firelands and the whole elemental stuff, like the problem with Cataclysm's lore, I felt, is there were just so many different threads going on, and it just didn't really tie up most of them. And then, like, one of them being the elementals, like, oh yeah, Neptulon, he got captured at the end of Ashir. No idea what's going to go on there until they decide to talk about it. You know, and then, like, Ragnaros, okay, we downed him, we did, you know, so that was irritating. That and just, God, like, Hour of Twilight was a suck-ass last raid. I'm gonna be honest, like, you look at the last raids, or, like, the very end of every other expansion, Pandaria included, and they're so awesome, right? Like, the end of Vanilla WoW is Nox Ramis, this big floating undead citadel in the sky where you get to take on Kel'Thuzad from Warcraft 3. And then you have Burning Crusade, where you have the Sunwell with Kil'jaeden and Black fucking Temple. You know, and then you have the end of Wrath of the Lich King with Ice Crown Citadel and the Lich King, and then Ruby Sanctum, which was okay. So, yeah, and then Pandaria, you get to assault Orgrimmar. And let me tell you, the Siege of Orgrimmar is broken into 4 parts. Part 1 is kind of just okay. Every other part of it is as awesome as it sounds. You land on the beach, and you have a beach landing Normandy style, where you have to take out a dragon rider. Then you fight a giant mech in front of the city, the dark shamans, and then you just go into the underground caverns and fight, like, Garish's really crazy shit. You know, like, it's real, like, the tone is cool, it feels epic, you know, and I think that was one of the biggest problems with Cataclysm. Like, I mean, you and I did Dragon Soul. You and I raided a lot of Dragon Soul.
Well,
like,
yeah, we raided enough. Well, we didn't do a lot, but we did enough in which it's like, let's see, usually part 2.
Yeah.
Part 1 was just... Part 1 was like a checklist of killing these monsters, and that was it. And then part 2 was like... Part 2, okay guys, time to skydive off the ship! Yeah, skydives off the ship. Then you proceed to stand on a bunch of islands trying to kill Deathwing after busting his spine.
Well, I remember how it was set up. The first 3 or 4 bosses with that were horrible. They were all those old god-style monsters, and just none of them
it's
were
like,
fun
run
to
north,
fight.
run east, run west, kill jellyfish. Or not jellyfish, little pieces of pudding, or something like that. That didn't feel too exciting.
Then you fight that one in the Eye of Eternity, which that was kind of cool. And then you fight the Altraxion, which that was a cool fight. Altraxion was a fun fight. And then you have the Spine of Deathwing, which, okay, that was... Or you have the airship, which I don't know what's with Blizzard and making airship levels stupid easy, but whatever. And then you had the Spine of Deathwing and Deathwing, which, okay, Spine of Deathwing was kind of neat the first time.
Yeah, let's see. Like, I still don't understand how that fight works. Like, in like the 5 or 6 times I ran it, because it was like, you're on the Spine of Deathwing. You gotta get his pieces of armors off, but you don't shoot the blood when this counter is doing something. Like, I don't even know how that counter thing works. I never bothered looking it up, which is probably why I never understood it. But it was like, I don't understand what's going on. All I know is I was told to stop attacking, and I'm like, okay, I'll stop. And that was DPS, so if I was screwing up, that wasn't a big deal.
And then the end fight was you fight Deathwing's toenails. Which, like, when you compare that to Kil'jaeden, which, I mean, you're basically fighting Satan.
You know, to me, it was...
Because I know you've never done
fighting Deathwing's toenails was... It almost, like, it felt like an MMO version... Like, it felt like MMO version of fighting of Alduin's toenails, only bigger. And you're stopping missiles, and it was like, he's trying to cause another cataclysm. Quick, heroes, jump to this island and punch more of his feet, and I'm just... That just didn't... For some reason, that just didn't seem right.
Yeah, I mean, so there was
It was
that.
just... It felt so... regular. I don't know. I couldn't. I don't feel like there was that much passion into it. It was just kind of generic. It's like you kill Deathwing, you kill the skeleton of Deathwing that preceded. You stop the Cataclysm and you beat the Enrage timer, so a second Cataclysm doesn't blow all 25 of us into a billion pieces. You watch the cutscene. It says, "Oh, dragons are done with their task," which is like, what? Really? That's it?
Yeah.
And it was like...
Well, I mean, especially when you compare that with the end of... Like, Cataclysm has the unfortunate fate of being compared to Wrath of the Lich King at all times, which is really, really fucking unfair.
Well, okay, well, even if you ignore Wrath of the Lich King... Like, for example, I wasn't there for Wrath of the Lich King. Cataclysm was when I started playing World of Warcraft. And... even I found World of Warcraft to be like, this is... Because I did play Warcraft 3, and that was cool. As cheesy as it was cool. And I like it. And the story was great, too. And I really like the lore of Warcraft. But it was just like Cataclysm just didn't feel like... This is made by the actual Blizzard team, and they don't seem to kind of get close to what I was hoping, even though I didn't play Wrath of the Lich King. It was generic.
Well, I mean, part of that is because, like, you go, like, the Wrath of the Lich King, the end villain was Arthas, okay? And you had this really epic moment with Arthas, like, and then you have that end cutscene, which I'm not sure if you've ever bothered to go and watch it, but, like, Arthas dies, and his dad comes out of Frostmourne, and he's like... And Arthas goes, "Father, is it over?" And it's just like, "Yes, no king rules forever, my son." And then Arthas dies, and then you have the helm of the Lich King staying there, and Arthas's dad is like, "There must always be a Lich King." And Tyrion Fordring looks at it, but then Bolvar comes up, and he's just like, "Yo, I'm not really living. I am basically alive because of the dragon's fire. Please, like, I will be the jailer of the damned." And he puts the helmet on and becomes the new Lich King, and and that's how it ends. It's Bolvar sitting on the throne, being, as he quoted, jailer of the damned. So like that was really cool. To me, at least.
Yeah, Cataclysm was just one-dimensional. Yeah.
I mean, I even think the ending of Pandaria is... And Pandaria has two different endings, depending on your faction, is better than Cataclysm's. Obviously, the ending of TBC doesn't really have a cutscene, but it does have, a couple of moments, depending on what you consider to be the ending, Black Temple or Black Temple or Sunwell, Jesus. But still, like, even then, like, that's still better. That's still better than kind of what we got there with, like, oh, he's dead. Okay. Dragons, something.
Yeah. No. Cataclysm was good. I just didn't understand. Like, is this exactly what people mean by World of Warcraft is the most addictive thing ever? Because I just didn't get it.
Yeah, And
Pandaria didn't help. And Pandaria didn't help me either, because that's when everyone was leaving, and I'm just like, okay, maybe I showed up way, way too late to the party.
Pandaria is a case of, like, this is really well made content, and it's just it for whatever reason. But people, the general public, is like, oh, pandas.
It's not just pandas, but they felt the whole. Like, I talked to quite a few people who actually played a lot back in the Burning Crusade days, and they all told me the exact same thing. Blizzard made the game too easy. Blizzard makes the game around their core audience now, which is, quote, casuals. They all tell me the same thing.
And I'm like,
the game is designed around casuals. It's designed to be easy. The casuals is their core audience now, so they go where the money is. Like, I was told the same thing. Actually, I had some people in Final Fantasy XIV tell me that too. It's like I guess the difference is that unlike in Cataclysm, where it was like once you knew things, blatantly easy. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I did, what was that, dungeon run at the end? Our Twilight? Yeah. Which you go kill the guy that just keeps screaming, "There was only power!" You know, that guy.
Benedictus.
Benedictus, yeah. That quote is so funny. We all just stand there and mock it all the time.
Oh,
but once you know that dungeon run, it's like easy, and that's true with any dungeon run. But it wasn't like there was any actual new content that was challenging people. So that was Cataclysm. But people who played WoW back in the old days, and when I talk to them today, they actually all tell me the exact same thing.
My thing, well, as we all know, we work for a gaming site. The general opinion is rarely, is not always the true one. And, like, my thing was, like, really, like, fucking, have you done heroic raiding? Like, the mechanics for these fights some of these fights is harder than ever. It's just, I get if your argument is, yeah, but we don't feel special because now everyone gets to wear
maybe
some version
that's
of the
what they're arguing.
armor.
Maybe that's what they're arguing enough, is that it's too easy for everyone to acquire things.
Which may be
the thing, because it's like when you are very good at a game and you invested a huge amount of time in the game, you want it to be shown that you invested a huge amount of time in the game via, really shiny pieces of armor and stuff like that. But then when it becomes easier, but when you invested all of this time, and then in the future the game is changed in a way where the average person can get to the top as quickly in less time, all of a sudden it's like, it's like, what? I worked so hard and this guy doesn't have to work as hard, so the game was made easier. It's just kind of like you don't feel special anymore. Maybe that's one reason.
Like, I could see that, but then I'm just like, yeah, but the version of your heroic armor looks different. It's better armor. You guys get some stuff, like, you guys get some bosses that the general public does not get.
I know.
Like that.
But I tried to think through it. Basically, from what I can understand, Blizzard made the game too easy.
It's like,
exactly
okay.
What sections? Well, they're not exactly game journalists, so I can't get a very, very detailed description of what exactly they found to be too easy. But all I understand is that they think the game was made easy to the point where if you're the kind of person who spent 8 hours a day playing this, you will not be any more special than the person who spends only 3 hours a day playing this.
Yeah, I can see that, but like, I'm just, I'm sitting here.
They made the game. Some people they made the game more for like people like me who actually live a normal life, to still get into the end game reasonably well, but at the expense of those who actually do this game for a living or used to.
And
maybe that's it.
I could get that, but even then, I'm just kind of like, really. Yeah.
But for now, I've talked about it many times, but for now, I think that the reason why people are leaving World of Warcraft isn't just because they made the game, quote, easier. It's lots and lots of reasons. I actually tried to argue that point to people. They said, oh, they were losing subscribers because it's too easy. Actually, have you considered how old the game is? Have you considered that everybody is making an MMO? Like, everybody. Like, in 2004, the only MMOs I heard of was, like, what, Ragnarok Online, which only people in Asia really play.
No,
RuneScape was just really awful in Nintendo 64 graphics. What else? Phantasy Star Online, well, no one plays that on the GameCube.
Well, there was the Dreamcast and PC versions, but there's PSO, EverQuest 2, Lineage 2...
yeah, like with the success of World of, like, you think about it, MMOs are extremely popular, whether it is like RuneScape. I think there's a RuneScape 2, whether it's RuneScape 2 because it's free and it's updated, Whether it's because of Final Fantasy 14 or 11, because you just happen to, like the Final Fantasy style more like I do. Like, everyone is making MMO these days. I mean, Blizzard just kind of put MMOs right on the top of the gaming pop culture chain. Because everyone knows what it is. And and when you have something that popular, everyone wants a piece of that pie. So they go out and make MMOs also.
I think that's part of it, but I also think it's the fact that, well, like you said, it's older, but
it's true. Like, for me, I'm tired of the game already. Okay?
With all this, constant, like, even through it's like, oh, they're losing subscribers and people just bitching at it, I'm like, yep, and its nearest competition is still 6 million behind it. That's hilarious.
So what? It's still in decline, which means that gap is closing.
Yeah, it's closing.
It's still closing. Yeah, well, for now, obviously, yeah, but that gap is closing. But it's like, the game is old. I mean, you think about it. Would you walk to a young teenager today and say, hey, would you like to get into World of Warcraft? They'd be like, oh, that old thing? It's a lot harder to get into Warcraft. It's a lot harder to try and convince somebody to have a fresh start in World of Warcraft than say, I was just like, why not can't I just play Elder Scrolls Online? That's a new game. It's new. It's fresh. Or
yeah,
fresh,
but so far it is supposedly bad from what I've heard.
I don't know, but
like
World of Warcraft is like, it's going to be 10 years old this holiday season.
And it's the 20th. And
I mean,
also
you think about it. There's like so many.
Hold up, it's also going to be the 20th anniversary of the Warcraft franchise.
Ooh, Blizzard's going to have a huge party.
Yep.
BlizzCon's going to be a huge party, actually.
We got to find a way to go this year.
Warcraft focused. I mean, they already talked about the new StarCraft expansion, and Diablo 3 is getting a new expansion soon already, so it's time to celebrate Warlords of Draenor and Warcraft. Maybe they'll talk about Warcraft 4. Then I'll totally buy it.
Oh, God. Just Blizzard, I will just shower you with my money. I already do a lot of that, but, just more of it, even.
Yeah, so World of Warcraft is 10 years old. It's hard to convince anybody these days to get a fresh start in the game when it's, that aged that much.
But so
and a lot of older people's memories are the days when they were, I don't know, you keep calling it Stockholm syndrome, the day when they had to suffer for enjoyment.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I remember those days. I
like to talk about the days when I actually was put on the difficult part of having to stun a freak, and if I miss a stun, someone died and they would get angry at me. I actually missed those days, even though today they actually made it a part of, hey, guess what, you can't stun everything. Guess what, DPS, you actually have to move now.
Yeah, see...
Enjoyment through suffering. You call that, Stockholm syndrome, so... maybe that's basically it, because I put in so much work just to, get this much done, and now they're making it easier. Well, that sounds a lot like what's really funny? That sounds a lot like what older people say all the time. Back in my day, I didn't have computers. Yeah. We had to write everything. Back in my day, we had real books instead of tablets that hold tens of thousands of books. I don't know, but it's people get probably maybe a bit jealous that things are easier because they worked hard for it, and now any new player nowadays can just kind of catch up in far less time.
See, I never had that. In fact, the one thing that people are bitching about now that I guess we should talk about is with Warlords of Draenor, everyone's going to get a free 90, and also they are considering selling level 90s in the store. First off, let's talk about this. In Warlords of Draenor, that's not even the level cap. So why are we complaining about this? In fact, this is fantastic. I wish this has existed all along. So there are friends who have wanted to get into Warcraft, but I like playing Warcraft's current content. And I want my friends to be able to play my current content with me. So the fact that I can just jump someone straight to Warlords of Draenor, yeah, that's great. And you may argue, well, what if they don't know how to play, how are they going to learn to play their class? Well, Blizzard's already said they're going to add a section for all fresh 90s that is basically, teaches you that. And to add more on to that, they also said, who takes all currently 90, but what will be 100 levels to learn how to play a character? Really? Really? Like, anyone? Hell. I've been playing my Death Knight recently. He's a level 73. Fucking a potato can run level 70 content. So I mean, realistically, the current content is where
you said a potato.
Yes.
How are you doing today? Because I'm a potato. Clap, clap, clap. Oh look, that still works. Oh, what am I? Sorry, that you just reminded me of potato. I just think GLaDOS is a potato. Well, that's one of my favorite lines from Portal 2.
I am a potato. Yeah, no, hey, our Gamer Access Game of the Year 2011.
Yeah.
But, I have that, but I look at that and I'm like, well, that, like, I don't see why people are complaining about this. Like, Anthony, let's say you skip Pandaria and I wanted to get you into WoW again. Like, let's say Pandaria never happened to you, you just skipped it. And I was like, yo, Anthony, let's fucking play this. Let's play Warlords because it looks awesome. I'm gonna buy you the expansion, or I'll get it, So, yeah, you're gonna have to level your character through that Pandaria content. I realize they nerfed it. I know that's gonna take a while, but come on.
I would just say no.
Or
I don't want to level through all of Pandaria, completely deserted and boring myself to death just so I can catch up with everybody while trying to live a normal life.
Or how's this sound? We give you a free 90 to tool around with and you learn how to play your class in leveling through Warlords of Draenor. How's that sound?
That sounds
good?
Great. Yeah. I think everyone's
Fantastic.
Just fuming about the same thing that everyone else was fuming about Warcraft in general, which is it's more accessible to noobs.
I never understood that argument. Like, I get it. I get what you're saying. But
I mean,
even then I'm just
like I said, it sometimes sounds like what older people complain about. Because it's like, oh, you kids today, you all get fancy computers and all you do is you just sit in front of it and stare at it. Like in my day, we actually have to go outside and play football to have fun. Well, actually, football's not the correct analogy, but you get the point.
Yeah, well.
It's a lot of, back in my day, you guys have it so easy. I don't know.
Yeah, I get that. And I'm in this weird place with this where, like, in my opinion, I want all games to be accessible, in some way so everyone can enjoy them. Especially a game like WoW or Final Fantasy XIV. Like I one of the things I look forward most to in Warlords of Draenor is being able to tell my friends who've quit for a while, like Manny, like, who are interested in playing and want to play, like, hey, you can start leveling with us immediately. You get a free 90, dude. And in your case, Anthony, it's gonna be like, well, your hunter's already 90, but you'll have 2 classes that can go through Draenor. So, like I look at stuff like that, and I'm just like, yeah, that is actually not a bad idea. I get that it's just like all the arguments, everyone who says, oh, learn to play your class is dumb, because no one learns anything from leveling, really, other than your basic abilities, but you can learn those in 10 levels. Like, I don't see why you can't. And then, alright, well, what about... Then you have, well, what about, like, playing with your friends? Like, that's the main thing for me. Like, I just want to play... Like, I want my friends to be able to play this with me, and one of the biggest content hurdles for WoW is the catch-up factor. And with this new expansion... I mean, think of how many people who quit during Burning Crusade or Wrath or Cata who would love to come back because Warlords looks amazing. It's probably the most impressed I've been by an expansion trailer since Wrath. And how many people are going to be able to commit to it just because of, yep, I can now I can now just have a character that can start on that content. So like that's huge. So and it's not like you can't level a character through that other content. And maybe some people don't like the early levels of a certain type of character, but they like the late game stuff. Like, I find playing a Shadow Priest at levels 1 through 60 boring as hell. It is torture. But playing a Shadow Priest at level 90 is kick-ass. You know, so... Like, that's that. I don't know. Anthony, I think all MMOs you should be able to buy level capped characters with full epics. Let's do this. Let's just make this horrible future that everyone wants.
I think it's probably better to buy like a basic character that just gets you started on the expansion.
Which is what they're doing. They're not even giving you a level capped character.
That is fine, because, one of my complaints with the whole free-to-play concept of, pay to win. I really do not like pay to win. However, what you can pay is for like a basic set that gets you started.
Yeah, like
it's like a starter pack. It's like a starter pack.
Yeah, like, oh, hey, you quit during Burning Crusade. Well, here's all the current content. We know you want to play it. Here's your starter 90. Yeah, if you want to boost 20-year-old, and here's your profession leveled up to a point that can do that can go in there, and here is a set of greens and blues to get you started. Like, that's fine. Like, I'm going to use my free 90 on a paladin. I don't know, Anthony, what are you going to use your free 90 on?
I do have a warrior that really needs to catch up.
I mean, like, I've already leveled a mage and a warrior. I probably might do a Death Knight between now and Pandaria comes out. I've always wanted to play a paladin, but the early days of paladin are boring. So, what am I going to do? I'm going to use my free 90. So he can just jump right into that content.
So, I finally decided to look at some screenshots of Warlords of Draenor.
Yeah.
Because I never bothered. Color.
Yeah, I know.
Ooh, it actually kind of doesn't look that bad. There's this one particular screenshot that is on their Draenor expansion website. It's like the first screenshot. It looks almost Halo-esque with the blue, with like the with the bluish purple and everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that looks almost Halo-esque.
The new character models look great. I think that considering how old that game is and they're tweaking an old engine, they're doing fucking miracles. That said, I think that it is a legitimately great game. I think it's gonna be the best expansion since Wrath. I think that Cataclysm was kind of their tune-up expansion where they had to learn some things. Pandaria has been great, but they kind of had to learn that, okay, people want to do content outside of raiding and PvP, but you got to be able to catch people up quickly, and you also got to be able to make content outside of raiding and PvP that is not dailies. And they also, they basically are learning. They're actually trying to find a way to satisfy everyone, and they're actually doing a pretty good job of it. One of the things I'm actually most excited for is Mists of Pandaria, because of scenarios, they didn't make that many 5-mans. And I like 5-mans. I think they're fun. So the fact that they're putting a emphasis on making more of them makes me very happy. I don't know. That expansion is obviously going to come out this year. Most of us are pretty excited for it. But I don't know. What do you think they're going to do an expansion for FF14?
Ooh, man, a new expansion for FF14. They could do so many things. Because there are a lot of storylines that are kind of been, I wouldn't say a lot, but there are some storylines that were left open that you could expand on. Because the story of Realm Reborn is basically, the Empire is rising, time to strike down the Empire and kill its dudes. Well, patch 2.1 and 2.2 is still kind of taking care of some of the aftermath. of the Empire, and the end of 2.1 suggests that probably only 90% of it was taken care of. So I'm guessing like the main game is about taking care of the Empire. Future expansions. Well, we could talk about Dragoons. Because there's this snow area. For some reason, games love to put dragons in snow. Skyrim did it. Warcraft does it. So does FF14. Is that the Elven, the elf people, they have this eternal struggle of constantly slaying dragons that keep burning down their towns, and it kind of becomes like this ridiculous, kind of religious thing where you slay the dragons, and if you have any sympathy for them, you're a heretic. Kind of thing. So that could be its own expansion, because I think that gives a lot of room for story exploration. And to be honest, currently the snow area is only one zone. It's the Coerthas Central Highlands, and you can expand it very easily. For one thing, you don't have access to their fancy tall tower yet, which for some reason goes really high and also stretches down into an abyss somehow. So currently that's the only obvious expansion I can see so far.
Okay.
I mean, that doesn't involve some fancy portal to another planet that hasn't blown up yet,
Maybe they'll send you to a planet that has been blown up.
Maybe they could. I sure hope that the desert that is greeting you isn't as dull and boring. Oh my goodness.
Though that is one thing that I have a fondness for when it comes to the Warcraft universe is I guess you could call it some of the absurdity of it, of the whole, oh yeah, there you like space aliens, like I mean, when you think about what are the orcs and Draenor, space aliens, like that.
Yeah, blue space goats is what you describe the Draenor, right?
Yeah, space
goats. Or
goats.
Draenor, I should say.
Yeah,
freaking blue space goats is just like, what now?
Yeah, exactly. Like
that speak with a Russian accent.
Yes,
that's just a little interesting. Yeah, I really don't know what the expansion they're gonna do with Final Fantasy XIV. I mean, with Warcraft, it's kind of easy to come up with an expansion because so much of the world and lore has already been established. Like, you think about it, they made World of Warcraft regular. Well, I don't know actually what time in the history it takes. I'd say like after Warcraft 3.
It takes 4 years after Warcraft 3.
Yeah, but guess what? There's so much to the world. Guess what? What happened in Warcraft 3? You got Warcraft 3 to start off, so what did you have? Well, you got the Blood Elf Prince going crazy, and you got Arthas going crazy. And you got the Night Elves that were just introduced. Guess what? Lots of things you can do with that. So when it comes to making expansions, guess what? The Blood Elf story never got solved. So let's go and kill the Blood Elf Prince. Hey, the story of Illidan never got solved. And they all went to an outlet. Let's go take care of him too. After that, hey, Arthas, freaking the Lich King is, hello, he's not like chilling out in Northrend with his zombie buddies just partying all day. He's going to take over the world. So why not just take care of him in Northrend?
Yeah, like, there's so many threads from previous games and books and whatnot that they've really set up a universe that can keep going forever. Like, no one knows where Turalyon and Illyria are. They have been gone since fucking since
That's
Warcraft
one thing from Outland
expansion.
they can definitely touch on, is that her half-elf son has been in honor hold for the last, 8 years? Asking where his parents are? Yeah, that's something pretty cool to touch on. He actually might be in Warlords of Draenor just because it's like, oh my goodness, a time machine to the past. Jumps in.
How much do you want to bet that? So they've already said we're going to see Khadgar from Warcraft 2 and Beyond the Dark Portal and Burning Crusade. So I am hoping that this is finally the expansion that we get to see Turalyon. I like every person who is a fan of the Alliance loves Turalyon. Obviously, he was kind of one of the big heroes of the older Warcrafts, and no one dude went through the Dark Portal, and the end of that game happened, and him and Illyria have disappeared from the lore ever since. So where'd they go? So yeah, that's basically my little rant
Yeah.
on it, I guess.
Yeah, so Warcraft have so much lore that you can pretty much write an expansion for it. I mean, frickin', you could even write an expansion to go back to, forgot what the event was called. The Sundering. There we go. You can even do that. You just have to, like, say, hey, you just kind of have to go up to the Bronze Dragon and say, hey, we're sorry, but we constantly have to keep traveling back in time. We know your leader's going to go crazy eventually, so we can't do it anymore soon, but, you know, if you can help us out now.
In the meantime.
Yeah, in the meantime. So, but in Final Fantasy XIV, because it is a new world being Eorzea, you don't exactly have that kind of power behind you. I mean, the best you can do is just leave some plot holes that will be filled up later. It's like, for example, for me, the most obvious one is the struggle between the Dragoons and the Dragons. That's about it. I don't know what else they're going to do because and obviously a moon blowing up, that was actually being taken care of in the game's hardest dungeon run. But yeah, you don't really quite see the future as well. They'll think of something, but for now there isn't anything that can make the fans go crazy and say, "Oh my goodness, wouldn't it be cool if?"
Yeah, Burning Crusade was like, I remember when they unveiled Burning Crusade and it was cool, like, oh shit, Blood Elves, that's rad. Oh boo, they're horde, lame. And actually, they didn't unveil the Alliance race until later. But, you know, they showed some of that. It was cool. But the expansion that really they really didn't do the same thing they do now to unveil an expansion. Like, Wrath of the Lich King is the first thing they did where they do the stuff they do now. And holy bat crap, it was awesome. They, you know, especially because it had Arthas in it and everything. So, oh, man.
Yeah, so, yeah, that's like Warlords of Draenor right there. It looks prettier. Almost to the point where you could say, you know what, they kind of did a pretty good job disguising the age a little bit. Now, to be honest, we kind of live in an age where it's a lot about high visual fidelity with beautifully textured, beautifully crafted, beautifully modeled characters and that kind of stuff. And you look at Warlords of Draenor and it's like, yeah, that doesn't have that. So man, you can still tell it's old, but it doesn't look that old anymore.
It does not look 10 years old.
It looks like maybe 05, 06, which is a nice jump, I guess.
Not only that, but it still looks good because their art.
It looks good. It looks, you know, the art is good, which is what's keeping it going. It's just that unlike in Final Fantasy XIV, where everything these days is an obsession with, you know, polygons and textures and effects.
So, like,
Warcraft just doesn't seem to have as much finesse as you know, the newer offerings. Yeah.
So my thing with Final Fantasy XIV and Rift and some newer MMOs is, like, I look at them and I guess I prefer that more stylized look. You know, because, like, I really, like, I look at Final Fantasy and I have friends who play it, you play it, Chris plays it, a couple people play that game, I know, and they post screenshots of it. And I look at it and I'm just like, it feels very Lord of the Rings. Like, it's
which is perfectly fine for me.
Yeah, like, but to me that's not stylized enough. Like, I like the fact that Warcraft goes out of its way.
It's pretty standard fantasy stuff.
It's the same reason I prefer Wind Waker to Twilight Princess. Like, I prefer a more stylized art style. And, like, I get that Warcraft is stuck with this art style because they created the universe. They've always had this art style. Like, you go and play Warcraft 3, and then you go and play WoW, and, like, that art style just carries directly.
Yeah, but here's the problem.
over.
How many people played World of Warcraft and actually played Warcraft 3? Not many. That's actually one of the problems, because that sometimes I kind of think to myself, it's like, oh man, the World of Warcraft is so cool, you can have a college class on it. But for a lot of people, they didn't play Warcraft 3. To a lot of MMO players, they usually talk about when will my boots drop.
Okay, I am checking out how much. All right, so I'm checking out how much each Warcraft game sold. All right, so Warcraft 1 and 2 each sold 1 million. Warcraft 3 sold 5 million. And World of Warcraft sold 14 million.
Sold 14. Well, what was the peak of their subscriptions, really?
13 million. So
13 million, yeah, but you got to consider that over a course of a lot of time, some people stopped, many more joined. You know, I'd say bigger than 14 million. Just a guess.
So let's say 15 even.
So that's still a lot of people who have not played Warcraft or played it to an extent to where they actually understand what actually happened in the game. Like, to a lot of people, I just kind of, every time I talk about Warcraft to people, all they ever talk about is gear, and the old days. They never, ever, ever talk about, oh man, the story of Arthas is so cool. Oh man, it was so cool when we get to see the beach that Arthas landed on and doomed everybody. Like, you and I talk about that, and we think it's cool. But I have not met anybody else who ever, discussed that.
Yeah, and that's a real shame. I know some people have. I know Ben has, Quinn has. Like, there are people who played it. But...
I mean, if you are... I'm pretty sure it's a different story if you're on, like, the role-playing servers, because you actually do have to take that into account.
Yeah.
But a majority of the servers are not role-playing, so a lot of people just kind of... They just want their cool gear to just kind of, show off to everyone else and, have fun with friends. They don't necessarily talk about stories.
So that's that. As far as news about Warlords of Draenor goes, there's gonna be 7 new questing zones, as they've already said, and they actually went into a little detail about each of them. So that's good. They talked about the separate clans of the orcs and where they're located, along with the ogres and other species that are in Outland/Draenor. Then they went into, what starting zone you're going to be in, stuff like that. And then recently they put out a new, this is what our new character models look like, and holy crap, this is how much better they are.
They look better. They look a little weird, but better.
So that's that. Not much news other than that on the Warcraft side of things.
Not much news on the Final Fantasy end either. I don't know the last time we recorded this. What was the last time we recorded this?
I think it was right after I got back in. I know that much.
Late November, maybe?
Ish, yeah, around there.
Let me check. It's their new website. It is so much easier. November 19th.
Yeah.
Okay, so since then, patch 2.1 in Final Fantasy XIV came out.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah.
Well, we talked about what was coming to it, and now that I've spent a lot of time in it, here's what they changed. So basically, there was the fate system, which they now made it to the point where you don't really need to do any fates anymore, so those are completely deserted. The new duty roulette system, which basically queues you into a random dungeon. You have low-level roulettes, which is for anybody from 15 to 50, I should say, and it throws you into a dungeon level at your level or lower. It's nice, makes for great leveling. Gets more people into the dungeons and actually helps new people instead of new people sitting around forever because no one's queuing. Now you have random queues. You have high level, which is basically end game. You have Guildhess, which is like basic stuff, and then you have I think that's it. I know there's another one I'm forgetting. Oh well. So they added some new dungeons. Basically, what they did is that in 2.0, the only hard modes you got were the trials, in which you were getting your relic, which is like the second best weapon you can get in your game for your character. And now what they did was they introduced hard mode dungeons, which is basically your heroic dungeons, really. The only one I ever did is the Haunted Mansion one, which has like really cool Castlevania like music, so that's awesome. There are other hard ones.
As long as we're talking about Haunted Mansion type stuff, Final Fantasy has holiday events, obviously, similar to the Warcraft ones, and I cannot wait to find out what your guys' Halloween event is going to be. Our Halloween event is we fight the Headless Horseman. So
our Halloween event is more like you're just running around everywhere, going boo at people, and you get costumes, or a costume, I should say. Yeah, the holiday events. They're not like ultra special, but you'll see. You got hard mode dungeons. You get continuation of the story, which darn phone. Sorry about that. I realized I turned my phone off, so I'm turning it back on. So, anyways, you get hard mode dungeons. You get more trial mode runs. You get a slight continuation of the story, which involves checking you into more hard mode fights. You fight a bunch of Muggles.
Okay.
Muggles are just... Ugh. I don't like Muggles.
Yeah, Muggles are okay.
They made a warrior worth using.
They're no Murlocs.
Yeah, there are no Murlocs. So the problem is that basically the only useful tank you had in the end game, from how I understand it, were paladins, because warriors weren't exactly designed to an extent where they could be used in the game very effectively.
The irony behind that is in Warcraft, it was the other way around when it launched.
Okay, well, the paladins are the usual sword and shield guys, and the warriors are the big axe people.
Alright.
So now they changed it to the point where warriors actually have the ability to... I think they have slightly better aggro building than paladins do, because I keep noticing I can't hold on to aggro versus a warrior. So they have that. I think that's about it, really. They also did some other balance. They did some tweaks to the old stuff, and they made crafting easier. I don't know how. Don't remember. And they introduced houses, which at this point on my server, at least, only maybe 5 or 6 houses total have ever been bought. So it's taking everyone forever to save money. There's a lot more. But, oh, yes, the first raid. The first 24-man raid came out. And that's one of the things I kind of do a lot, is it's basically, we all call it Crystal Tower, but it's called, like, Labyrinth of the Ancients. But we just call it Crystal Tower because that's the building it sits in. It's a 24-man raid. Once you get the hang of it, it's actually kind of easy. I mean, you can kind of fuck up and still make it to the end just fine. So it's not too hard once you get the hang of it. 24-man seems to be a good size because it basically mainly consists of 3 8-man groups. Yeah, that's about it. I'll probably sign in and look at some more. But that's about it for 2.1. I'm going to start actually talking about 2.2 in the next 2 days, or give a very exclusive sneak peek. So should be interesting what they're going to do next.
Let's see.
So yeah, not much groundbreaking. It's just kind of like the usual MMO update stuff going on.
Yeah, DC Universe just had a new patch come out, and knew what its equivalent of raid content is. So all of you who still play that, go nuts. Not much else really. Dota and League have both been pretty silent.
Yeah, they started Season 4 at League of Legends, I think. Patch 4.1 happened, I know that.
Oh yeah, the new PvP season for WoW started. There's that.
Oh yeah, that's another thing that 2.1 added. They added PvP. The problem is that from how I see, no one in my guild is interested in it. Because currently there's only one battle arena. It's more like a battle arena than an actual open field thing like it is in Warcraft. I think the problem is that people realize it's kind of easy to win, depending if things go your way or not. Basically, this is what I was told. Do you have a black mage? Can he reliably sleep everybody on the other team? If yes, you win. And if you don't have a black mage, and the other team does, you're screwed, because the sleep effect happens as long as you don't get attacked for about 15 seconds. At least how I understand how sleep works. So that's just basically, they sleep you and then they pick each one at a time. So there's that problem. And the problem is that it also happens very quickly because it's essentially like 5v5 in a battle arena like a Coliseum kind of thing. So no one, I don't see many people talking about it. Like for a lot of people, everyone's still talking about endgame content. They're still talking about how to defeat the extreme mode primal fights, which as far as I understand, have not really been beaten yet on my server. Maybe it has been beaten, but no one's really noticing. Like you have the regulars, which is part of the story, the hard modes, which is for your relic, and Titan hard mode is flippin' really, really hard. I mean, unless, like, if you are not the tank, you are in for a lot of hell, because you have to, I mean, almost literally, actually, it's in, like, underneath the earth where it's really hot. You have to be you have to be really, 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 really good at dodging, and the moment an AoE happens underneath your feet, you have to run out of the way immediately, because there are two things. One, you don't have much time to react normally, and two, you have like a slight lag that you have to account for. So you have to gun it. If you are healing, you can't finish that heal. You have to interrupt it and run if you don't want to be blasted off the cliff to your death. I mean, that fight drives people insane. Almost to the point where, in the past, people were selling Titan runs for, like, 200,000 gil. Because that's how frustrating it was. And some people think it's worth it because they don't want to go through that frustration ever again. And and here's a great story. Some people in the endgame zone were so fed up with the Titan carry spam that they offered to carry people through Titan for free. Just to get the spam to stop, which I think is very nice of them. Yeah. So PvP, I don't think people don't seem to care very much about the PvP. It's mostly still endgame content, really. Crafting is like a lot how in any other MMO is. Crafting and gathering. It sucks. Like in every other game, it takes forever. It's gonna take ages to hit 50. It's gonna take ages for you to craft enough so you can make a reliable income. So the good news is that at least they have some tricks to make it easier.
This is not MMO related, but right now I have $30 in credit card rewards, and I was using it to pay my credit card bill, and because you can do that, which I fucking love. But it's like, tell your friends about your great rewards. Isn't that what social media is for? Like, no, I don't want to tell people I paid my credit card bill, thanks. That's nice, though. Like, what the fuck? I don't know about you, Anthony, but man, do I want to tell everyone I know that I paid my credit card bill.
Yeah, let's share all the intricate details of our financial health.
That reminds me of
maybe they're going to put in a feature in which you can share the exact balance of your checking account. So you can flaunt how much money you have in everyone's faces.
So you can get robbed. That's how you get robbed.
Yeah, I know. But seriously, telling people that's like, look, I have enough money to pay my credit card bill. What now? Actually, it's not the problem that you have enough money to pay your credit card bill. It's like telling people exactly when you paid for it.
Yep.
Because I'm pretty sure a majority of people out there actually do have enough money to pay the credit card bills. You just don't know when they pay for it.
Exactly.
That's just one of those financial things you just don't share with people, really.
Oh God.
Yeah, so Final Fantasy.
I've been playing some more Hearthstone. It's an open beta. You should try it. It's pretty good. I don't know really what else to say beyond that. Like it kind of reminds me of Magic the Gathering, but a little more accessible. It's kind of pretty. Game's fun.
Yeah.
Quinn and I played, and we went and we tied. He won one, I won one. Not really much beyond that, sadly.
Yeah. So, other small news in Final Fantasy XIV. So I already talked about 2.1 as best as I can. So recent events. Not much really. Like I said, they're going to start talking about 2.2 pretty soon, which is like what? About they're probably going to release it like maybe 2 or 3 months after 2.1, which I think is normal for a game, for an MMO. But in other small news, they started because Square Enix is a big company. They like to do little crossovers with 14. So about a month or two ago, to promote, let me pull up this text message.
Lightning returns, the monorail.
No, let's see. What did you say? Final monorail hallway returns for the third time. That was the game. So to promote that, what they did was that they had like a small quest line where you're out and about, fating around, helping Lightning with her stuff, and you can get some pretty cool stuff. Like if you play as a female character, you can get Lightning's outfit from this, and if you play as a dude, you get Snow's outfit. And if you fate around with Lightning enough times after the quest, you can actually get enough items to trade in for weapons that look like their counterparts in 13 and 13.2. And 13.3.
Okay, that sounds alright.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. I mean, I kind of think it's like, oh man, wouldn't it be cool if, Blizzard does that. If Blizzard do that, I would be like, ooh, wouldn't it be cool if they start, do something with StarCraft. I mean, you can come up with some BS excuse. Like in StarCraft, they found some interdimensional black hole portal that transports you to this alternate dimension where Warcraft actually existed instead of StarCraft. Something like that. I mean, that's how they explain it.
Well, I mean,
in,
they already
FF14.
have pets from those games.
I know, but I'm talking about like a little, like kind of like cameo appearances, sort of.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, it's like, so they did that with Lightning 2 weeks ago. Right now, as we're recording this, they are doing a very small crossover with Final Fantasy XI and Dragon Quest X, I think.
So
they're really small and almost to the point where it's like, oh, it's a little nice, but I kind of don't care.
So one thing that I always thought was cool about the Burning Crusade in WoW, as long as we're talking about crossovers, is there's this band in real life called the Level Blank Elite Tauren Chieftains, and the blank is whatever the current level is. So like right now they're the level 90 Elite Tauren Chieftains. The next match will be the level 100. But in Shatrath, twice a day, they would have concerts. And you could go to their concerts and they would play I Am Murloc. And it was just awesome. And have you ever heard I Am Murloc?
No.
It's pretty great. I posted it on your Facebook. I wonder if they're going to do a patch trailers like the way Blizzard does for a major patch.
Oh, yeah. FF14 does that. Let's be honest here. FF14 does a lot of things that Blizzard already did. They just apply the Final Fantasy touch to it, which, considering that you're trying to fix a mess that was the original, that's okay. But yeah,
total grease fire. Yeah.
A complete grease fire. I mean, I'm going to pun this up when I write my review of FF14, is that in the story, they say that the story of Realm Reborn begins 5 years after the calamity, which this destructive event that happened to Eorzea, at that time, at the end of the first game, they say, or something like that, which is kind of funny because that could be punned up into it's like after the calamity that was the original 14, they made a Realm Reborn because the first game was that bad. Okay, so actually I know a bit more about 2.2 now. They're going to talk about Leviathan, which for you long-term Final Fantasy fan, you should definitely know that's a giant sea monster. They're going to talk about that. That's going to be the next big primal that everyone's going to have to deal with. There's going to be, I guess there's a new dungeon or modified dungeon, Ruins of Amdapur, I think. Yes, Ruins of Amdapur. That's going to be something new. They might change the name. They're going to add even more turns to the hardest dungeon in the whole game, called the Binding Coil Bahamut, which is that giant thing that blasted out of the moon in the cinematic. And they're going to add more to this awesome dude, this awesome side quest for Hildebrand, Agent of Inquiry, Inspector Extraordinaire. I mean, actually, with that side quest, it was so cool. They even gave him his own intro when you reached the end of the quest line.
So one argument you and I had about when talking about Warcraft was the music.
Well, the music just... Okay, well, the thing is, I prefer music that have...
You are high. That is what I'm saying right now. because I'm like, well, I would actually like, because I kind of thought about
it's not my style, okay?
I said, dude, listen
you might
to
as well be high for not liking Twilight Princess's art style, or Lord of the Rings art style, or Final Fantasy XIV art style. If you're gonna say
I'm
that
not
I'm
saying
high
art style,
for
I am
not
saying
liking
music. If you want to talk about Lord of the Rings music, I will totally say I will side
if
with
you
you on
think I'm
that.
high just because my music tastes don't align with yours, oh well.
No, because I like, I sat down. I kind of thought I was like, well, yeah, it has been a while since I've actually sat down and like listened to the Warcraft soundtrack, like several songs. So like I queued up a bunch of my favorites that I remembered, and yeah, some of them are the ambient stuff like Grizzly Hills, which I totally
You
get.
mean a lot of them are ambient stuff?
I think you need to load up like the Wrath of
Like
the
all
Lich
this
King
ambient stuff
soundtrack.
isn't something that I would put on the stereo of my car.
Because
it's just kind of low key.
But then I like listened to the stuff from Black Temple.
Yes, okay. Yes, obviously there are some tracks in Warcraft that are cool. Black Temple is cool. The main theme, the main menu theme that they played during the Burning Crusade, I think that was really awesome.
The Arthas, My Son track, but like
that's good. The Blood Elves Laments, that was also very good actually. And some of the Pandaria stuff is pretty nice too. It's just that the soundtrack is mostly focused around ambient stuff. Actually, the Night Elf theme that they also put in Cataclysm was also really great. But it's just that ambient is not something I'm really into.
Dark Iron Forge from Cataclysm. That one. The fucking, what do we call it? We used it for Game of the Year.
Yes.
Yeah, that one.
That was good. Yes, there are some good ones, obviously, yes.
Yeah,
it's just that a lot of music that you chuck at me are a lot more of the ambient stuff, which I'm like, this isn't something I would use in a highlight reel.
Well, yeah, like the thing is though, is when you're playing a game like that, which has a lot of, to be fair, a lot of walk from point A to point B, like it'd be really jarring.
I kind of almost judge video game music based on their use and whether I can listen to it outside of the game. And some of the Blizzard track ambient stuff, it's like, yeah, it probably works fine if you were playing it in elevator music at your local Blizzard store, but
like my thing is though is like I largely judge, like I don't judge it out. Well, I do judge it if I can listen to it outside, but I largely judge it by its context in the game. Which, in the case of a lot of that ambient stuff, like the song of Elwyn Forest, works perfectly for Elwyn Forest.
Actually, even Elwyn Forest is not the best example because even that is good to listen to outside of the game. It's actually that one's really relaxing, by the way, to listen to.
Like a perfect example is like when you go into Stormwind. Like every time, like I will always remember the first time I went into Stormwind, largely because of that song.
You mean the first 15 seconds and that's it?
The whole thing, like because you get that big entrance at the gates, but then it slows down from when you start walking through the streets and checking out what's in the town. Like I think one thing with me in music that really, I guess, makes me appreciate music is using it in the right tone.
I know that's really important, yes, but for me, it's also like, is it something that I would listen to 10 years from now, and I can easily listen to it outside of the game without getting bored?
I would say that it depends. Like for me, yeah, it's a song-to-song basis. I only listen to the Final Fantasy tracks that were on your flash drive that you loaned me. So to me, I listened to that, and I was kind of like none of it really stood out to me, I guess.
I just think the music has a huge amount of finesse to it, which is why I like it so much.
Which, like, right now, I'm looking through my Warcraft soundtracks, and I think, like, every zone has a different style to it because it's a different zone. And, like, I love the Grizzly Hills music. That is some of the best music in video games, to me. The second I hear that Grizzly Hills soundtrack, I'm like, fuck yes, let's go murder bears. It's go time to go fur trapping. Yeah. Which that fits the tone of Grizzly Hills. You've quested through Grizzly Hills. You know that Grizzly Hills is basically like a bunch of bear hunters out in the middle of the wild killing shit. Same like Howling Fjord has this huge Viking influence. I will agree that some songs are not for me. Azure Isle, the Draenei intro, just do not care for it at all. Just don't. The Night Elves kind of vary for me. Like the Night Elves, like some of their tracks are really bad, some of them are really good. Mount Hyjal is great in general. A track that's actually been stuck in my head for the past like week, I think partially just because I've been farming it so much, is there was this dungeon in the Burning Crusade called Magister's Terrace, and it has one of the best songs I've ever heard in a video game. So yeah. I really want them to put out a trial for Final Fantasy XIV.
They probably never will, though. That's the thing. They never did it with 11. I don't think they're going to do it now. Or in the future, even.
Yeah, which, okay, well, you guys aren't going to get me to play your game until it gets super, super cheap.
Which, being an MMO, no.
Which, yeah, like,
I mean, it is kind of cheap to get into. It's cheaper to get into. I mean, if you get the PS3 version, it's $40, and you get your first month included. And on the PC, it's $30. And I don't know how much it's going to cost when the PS4 version comes out. But, to me, that was pretty good. But doing demos on MMOs are kind of hard. I mean, I think Blizzard does it pretty decently by letting you go to level 20, and a lot of MMOs give you free to play, so all you have to do is make an account with them. And, but even then, it's like, going to level 20 in Warcraft doesn't even tell you how cool Warcraft can be.
Yeah, no.
Or how low or how bad it can be too. Actually, like there's some really dry spots in Warcraft that going to level 20 will not tell you, and there are some really, really awesome things that you definitely can't experience endgame at level 20. Which, to be honest, is probably 70 or 80% of your time in the game is going to be spent at the endgame.
I think that one thing that trial does, though, is it gets you through a starting zone and then like maybe one or two other zones.
The problem with that approach is that some games have really slow starting zones, but pick up extremely well after that.
Yeah, like
for example, if I played level 1 to 20 as a Night Elf, I would have just walked up to you and said, "Are you crazy? What is so fun about this?"
Yeah, but then I would have said, what race did you play?
Oh, so I have to be a very specific person at a very specific moment at a very specific point in time to get it.
No.
Like, that's kind of how I feel. It's like, oh my goodness, I wasn't here during the Wrath of the Lich King days. Therefore, I missed out on the whole reason why people played this game for endless days in the first place.
Well, no, because I still play it for endless days now.
You play it, but everyone else I know doesn't really play it, or they play it only occasionally.
Still the biggest MMO by a large margin.
Still the biggest MMO with a diminishing lead.
Still the biggest.
What? The biggest? Yeah, but what? It's still a diminishing lead.
But not enough to matter, though.
Freaking yes, I guess it. People talk as if the numbers are supposed to plunge off a cliff, but guess what? 7 million is not 13.
That's great. But, like, did you expect that game to sustain itself that long? Like, no.
With the way Blizzard wants to talk about it, sure.
Well, yeah, but if we listen to what companies say, Tomb Raider would be a massive failure. So, like, we listen to what these companies say, then fucking the world is doomed. But, last I checked, they're at 7.7 million. I'm gonna say that it's probably going to, hit around 5 and stay there for a while, and even then, that's still 2 to 3 times bigger than its nearest competitor. That's, and a lot of its shrinking numbers have to deal with China, because Mists of Pandaria just didn't. appeal to the Eastern audience, which I wonder why. But yeah,
probably because his art style just didn't work.
Yeah, which it didn't appeal to them.
I mean, you think about it, it kind of has a more art style that seems more for the Western part of the world with its cartoon looks, whereas the Japanese probably would prefer something more like an anime. Yeah, like Final Fantasy XIV. Actually, here's the thing. From what they said last November or something like that, they said that Final Fantasy XIV reached 1.5 million subscribers, 900,000 of which are in Japan.
Yeah.
So yeah. And it's actually not that big. It's not that big outside of that country.
You're only, hey guys, you're almost a fourth of the way there. Keep the dream alive.
I don't know,
but like,
I really don't know. It's like, oh, we've got more numbers. Well, McDonald's is the best food in the world. Then,
yeah,
by sheer numbers, McDonald's makes the best food, and the Wii is the best console of all time.
I could make an argument
by
for the
sheer numbers, PCs are the best systems ever made because more people buy computers than anything else. Actually, now it's phones.
First off, if you want to make an argument for the Wii as the best system of all time, I'm willing to play devil's advocate with that. I can make that.
You could actually. You could argue. You could argue that the Wii's best system.
But like, I can also argue that the PS2 whooped its ass and everyone else's ass except the DS.
Except the DS, yeah.
And the DS has an amazing library.
But the problem is that you can argue against the DS. It's like, but they had the DS and DSi.
Yeah, that too.
Theoretically, you could make exclusive games for the DSi because the DSi is slightly more powerful, but no one ever did. They all just consider it as part of the DS line.
I mean, that's the same thing with the PSP Slim. Like, the PSP Slim had twice the amount of RAM. It just made load times faster. They didn't actually do anything with it. So... But the thing is, like, when is Warcraft going to fall? I'm like, well...
I wouldn't say it's, to be honest, if I were to look at it professionally, it's not going to fall. I mean, at some point, once it probably... it's going to decline to the point where it's like, by the time it reaches a number where everyone is probably going to deem it a, quote, failure, Blizzard already has its next MMO out by then.
Yeah.
At least that's what I'm thinking. I mean, they have their Project Titan, which they started over like a year or two ago, which I found really odd because Warcraft can't sustain this for so long. Like, it needs to Blizzard needs a sequel to it. Not to mention, you're now under immense competition now. Yes, Blizzard has a huge subscriber base, and by a significant margin. However, there are so many choices for MMOs out there that's going to be pretty easy to find the one that you can easily click with. For example, I click with Final Fantasy XIV. For others, it's EVE Online. For others, it's DC Universe. And for some, it's,
it's WoW.
It's WoW. It could be WoW. It could be Rift. It could be Guild Wars 2. It could be Ragnarok Online. It could be EverQuest Next. It could be EverQuest 1 if you're one of the 10,000 people who still somehow buy. If you're crazy enough to buy expansions for that game.
I cannot believe people are buying fucking expansions for that game. Like, it's so nuts.
You know what? That's what's probably going to happen with Warcraft. 10 years from now, World of Warcraft will still exist, and there will be like 5,000 people still playing it. And are so hardcore into it that they are willing to code expansions
themselves.
How
many people play EverQuest currently? Like, I'm gonna look this up.
Google, yeah.
All right. Well, it's probably fucked up because now it's free to play. But let's find out. Man.
Well, all it did was it just gives me a bunch of forum posts and FAQs.
Yeah. Anyway, they're pay. So let's see. I'm digging through a forum. So EverQuest. Here's the thing. Like, before WoW, the biggest MMO's peak was like EverQuest at like 1.3 million. I'm kind of curious what the closest to WoW has been. Like, because WoW hit 13 million, and it just seemed like this fucking unstoppable.
Let me check. The only ones I can think of off the top of my head is Final Fantasy XI, Guild Wars 2.
Yeah, but Guild Wars 2, you don't pay to play.
I know, but Guild Wars 2 is still an MMO.
Okay,
it's still an
well,
MMO. That kind of counts.
yeah, but like if you want to talk about pay to play MMOs, fucking that really fucks this up for
Pay to
people.
play, yeah, but pay to play, yeah, that's true. Well, I'm thinking like Final Fantasy XI. Some other ones I could think of off the top of my head is
Yeah.
Let me check. The problem is that aside from company press releases, there isn't exactly a very good way of gauging MMO sales.
Yeah.
Because probably only the company knows for certain exactly how many active subscriptions there are.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know, man. Like we're.
Well, Guild Wars 2 is like almost 2 million, maybe.
So, all right, people.
And let's see.
I mean, that's fucking. It's so crazy to me to think like just 14 million at a point, or no, 13 million. Like, holy shit!
I know it's a pop culture icon, for better or worse. Because, I mean, most I can remember about World of Warcraft is pretty much all the horror stories that the media was coming up with. Really.
Well,
I mean, actually, Blizzard in general was kind of a pretty Blizzard along with Rockstar were pretty easy targets for gaming destroying culture accusations.
well,
I mean, you got Rockstar with the Grand Theft Auto stuff, especially with Grand Theft Auto 3, San Andreas, and 4, and Blizzard got a lot of fire for creating StarCraft, in which Koreans are playing days on ends and dying from it. You also had Warcraft, which is causing neglection of children, declines of society kind of stories.
My thing with this is if you want to see a really good documentary about MMOs, Anthony, it should be on YouTube. Someone's easily uploaded it to that. And take the time to seriously go watch this. Go watch Second Skin. Like Aaron and I watched also? It used to be, but they took it off. Just watch it on YouTube. In fact, I'll post a link for you. Like, it's a really good documentary on like these dudes who were compulsive MMO players during the Burning Crusade days. They had EverQuest players. They like interview all these people, and like they go into the positive. And one thing I really liked about it is like they went into the positive effects and negative effects of MMOs.
Also presenting both viewpoints.
I know, a non-biased documentary. Like,
I don't know
fuck.
if I would call it non-biased, but at least they present both viewpoints.
Yes, I'll agree with you on
which, professionally, you should do. Now, obviously, when you're a professional, even things like Alien Colonial Marines pop up, and therefore it's really hard to come up with anything positive to say for it. But usually, as a professional, you kind of want to present both ends.
I gave Aliens Colonial Marines, I think I gave it a 3, and I said the only remotely positive thing I said about it was like the sound can be okay at points, and the multiplayer has moments where it's entertaining. That's not a lot of praise. That game was really bad.
There's a new Aliens game coming, and they are promising it to be cool or something.
They are from what I've heard about that game.
Look, after your failure of the previous game, you don't go out making promises like that because no one's going to believe you, and they all just laugh at you.
Yeah, that's true. But
I mean, really, you can promise you can promise your game is better. That because that we can believe, but you can't really promise that the game will be cool because we're just gonna laugh in your face. Because after the last failure, not gonna happen.
That is true. But that said, what was I gonna say? Lost my train of thought. Damn it. Oh well. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, the new Aliens. Yeah, supposedly it's supposed to be more like Amnesia. Those games where it's more of a horror game. Because the new Aliens, it's not Aliens, it's Alien. There's one alien, and your ass is running from it.
Oh, that sounds pretty tense.
Yeah, that actually sounded appealing to me. I'm like, oh wow, okay.
So you're running from the predator.
Yes, exactly.
That sounds a lot scarier, putting it into a bigger perspective.
Yeah, it absolutely
is.
It's
unlike being chased by a flock of many lions. You are chased by the lion. Yeah. Your only goal is to get away from that one lion. Because when you put many lions, you're just like, yeah, of course he's gonna die. But when you put only one, it's like, maybe he'll live, but he has to be really, really on it. Yep.
So, yeah. As not much other news from MMOs. Like it's kind of like that period. It's that period of year where just no news is coming from anyone.
Like for Blizzard, you're not going to expect much until like their BlizzCon, where they celebrate 20 years of Warcraft, 10 years of World of Warcraft, and talk about Warlords of Draenor. So I'm thinking it's going to be like
Draenor
Warcraft
might be out.
Con.
Like,
it's going to be like Warcraft Con, really. And then for Final Fantasy, it's at its point where, well, the game is still new. It's basically just post-release bits, like how Blizzard does it, releasing new bits and pieces to keep everyone excited for a bit longer while they're busy working on the next big upgrade. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so that's that. I think we're pretty much done here. Broncos are in the Super Bowl. Go Broncos.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah. So. Okay.
Please don't choke. Anyway.
Well, it probably won't be as bad to choke because at least the Seahawks offense isn't as good as the Patriots offense.
That's true.
It's just that the Seahawks have a very good defense.
Yeah. But they're playing the number one offense in NFL history.
Should be interesting.
Yeah.
It's like, it's Peyton Manning. You're not going to get much past the guy. Other small little bit techie, nerdy news.
Okay.
I think I already talked about that. Hey, AMD has released new processors, new APUs. You know, their CPU with GPU into one chip, kind of low-cost solution thingy. It's called Kaveri. From what it looks like, it's the same story, actually. Gaming graphics performance, good. CPU performance, mediocre, and can compete against Intel in any way, mostly. If you're talking about price point, they probably could compete against Intel, but as far as top-end performance, Intel is still way better. Good for low-cost solution. Good for your inexpensive $600 notebooks. If they come out for the notebooks. For now, they just have the desktop versions. So, yeah. And that's all the key news I have. Let me see if there's others.
Yeah, not much on my end either. So yeah, I think we're pretty good at closing up. I'm gonna do one last pass through here, but
yeah, that aside from AMD releasing new CPUs, that's about all techie news I've got.
Yeah, not much else here either. So, all right, yeah, that's been the raid. We'll be back next time that we are playing MMOs a lot, which. This will probably be the last raid for a while because we got Tomb Raider and Bravely Default and lots of crap coming out soon. So we got plenty to talk about outside of MMOs. So yeah. All right. Anyway, good night, everybody.
Bye.